All right, welcome back to another episode of the Hoff and Dynasty show. I know I just did a pod with Viking Mo, also known as Eric Gardner. If you did not listen to that, we did a full draft review of the HSTL season 45 draft. It took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I give a nice little fresh perspective on somebody who I think is probably one of the best drafters there is in HSTL. And he definitely had some nuggets of information in there that I definitely would not have spent the time to look for. So, in any event, if you didn't see that or hear it, it's up on my YouTube channel. It's linked in the forum. And it's also, at least I think, for 30 days on Twitch as well. So, in any event, I'm glad to have my co-host back, Matty D, Matt DeGeorge, Dynasty DeGeorge, whatever you want to call him. He's back. Matt, welcome back, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Good to be back, man. Good to be reunited.
So yeah, it was interesting doing a pod without you, and I kind of felt like I was cheating a little bit, but in any event, I think that it's good to be the heavy back. So without further ado, we're gonna kind of keep this one short because we obviously the draft review is the big thing about the season. So, but before we get into our predictions, I wanted to ask you about the most recent tournament you played in. So we just had the first East Coast tournament of the year is Long Island, right? And that was just a couple weeks ago?
No, not Long Island. It's New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. New Jersey, sorry.
Yeah, so Greg Little, he's a really good dude. So let me just give you a short backstory. So a year ago at Long Island, it was funny because Greg was like, I'm thinking about running a tournament, and he was like, well, I need a year to prepare for it, and we all kind of like chuckled at the Long Island tournament. But I gotta be honest, like the first tournament he did, it was phenomenal. The venue was great. The raffle prizes were phenomenal. He had a signed, autographed Joe Montana pitcher. That was the grand prize. The Wayne Haas pitcher. I won my first raffle in like 6 years. I won a Warren Moon action figure, so I was pretty pumped about that for once because I never buy raffle tickets, and I bought some this year. But yeah, so it was a really good tournament. I think there's about 30 participants total. Brian Chaos Rise ended up winning. Hats off to Brian. Brian runs the New York City tournament. He's ran it since 2007, and that was the last time he won. So it's been 11 years for him. But Brian's a stand-up guy. Like, everybody loves Brian. I love Brian. But the first tournament I attended was 2012 in New York City, and Brian was just very welcoming. So I'm happy for him that he won. He beat Sean in the finals. I believe the matchup was Cowboys-Jets. It was a good final. They met in New Jersey because there hasn't been a New Jersey tournament in about 4 years. It was kind of taking a hiatus, and they met in the New Jersey final 4 years ago as well, but Sean came out on top. But overall, it's a good tournament. Obviously, kind of some familiar faces. The only one that we were missing kind of was, Lewis Moore and Tadeos. But other than that, everybody pretty much showed up.
Why didn't Tadeos get there?
Well, I know that Kevin has a small kid, so I think that I think it was one of his kids' birthday, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's why he couldn't make the trip. But usually him and Eric drive down together. But we missed him, and hopefully he can go. I mean, Philly's literally this month. I'm gonna attend that one. Long Island's in August. I'm gonna try attending that one. New York City's in October. I always attend that one, and December's kind of the big thing now with Connecticut since it's that Tecmo Madison or Road to Tecmo Madison thing. So this year I kind of want to attend almost every Northeast tour. I never was able to really do that. I only usually do about 2, maybe 3. So I'm going to try doing all of them this year and then hopefully go to Madison in April again since I haven't gone since 2016.
Fun fact, I know I think I mentioned this in some pod, but since you just talked about the matchup of the finals, if no one remembers, I had a long talk with Brewdog who did a study on the matches of elite guys. He says an elite player defined by their tourney finish. he basically did the top elite matchups, and number 5 was um, Bears Chiefs.
Okay.
Number 4 was Giants Buffalo. Number 3 was KC Miami. Number 2 was Broncos Chargers, and number 1 was Jets Phoenix. Just that out interesting. And I was
Wow,
yeah, so
Jets Phoenix.
I would have thought honestly there'd be more weird matchups. Like I didn't, but I guess people just want to go to the tried and true. But so anyway, how did you do in the tournament? Because I know you usually do pretty well in all tournaments you go to.
Yeah, no, I mean the last time I played live was December when I won Connecticut, but other than that, obviously the only games I played was against you and Barletti online. So my performance, I was pretty disappointed. I definitely felt some rust. My group play games, I was down actually my first game, like 14-0, came back. And usually group play, I pretty much kind of steamroll. But yeah, I wasn't happy with my performance. I finished fifth. A lot of people would be like, it's good. And well, obviously, my standards not too good. So really, where the rust was, my offense was fine. My defense was, I played terrible defense the whole day. Like Oklahoma Bo and I played. So in Connecticut, Oklahoma Bo and I played in an elimination game. Then I played him in Thunderdome. Then we played again. So we've been facing each other a lot. And, he lives in Philly, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to play him again this month. But he played really well. No excuses from my end. I mean, he flat out beat me. It's just that really my defense was terrible. I was making some dumb mistakes. I think one of the plays, it was like a 3rd and 17. He ran for a first down. You know what I mean? Like it was just some dumb decisions on my part. But yeah, I would say my performance was lackluster. But after that, playing on a live console again, I feel a lot better going in Philadelphia. So we'll see what happens there.
If you haven't watched the Super Bowl between War Machine and Gats, you should because no, not Super Bowl. If you didn't watch the stream of Gats versus Diaz, Gats had 2 fourth and longs and called running plays on both of them and had some Jedi voodoo mind / move tricks that he converted them both. It was crazy. Gats also did say in the stream chat that you're a beast and he wants to play you New England versus Indy. So it's so funny because you were just mentioning that to me before we went live here, and it's kind of funny that he just said that immediately. You said a couple of things that stick out to me. One, when I was talking to Turbo, who no longer goes by Oklahoma Bone, he actually goes by Turbo now. When I was talking to Turbo, he told me that with his new tapping method that he learned from Eric Merlis, he says he gives away whether or not he's running or not because of he doesn't use it when he's passing. So did you see that as an advantage, or did you notice that when you were playing him that you knew when he was running because of how he was holding his controller, going to do the slide or whatever?
No, I'll be honest. I didn't even notice it. I don't look at people's controllers probably just because like back in the day when I used to play Madden, it was kind of just like a subconscious thing because you have to pick your plays that we always kind of like didn't look at our opponent's controllers just because we didn't want to cheat or anything like that. But I never look at how people are holding their controllers. I kind of just focus on everything. So I mean, if he does do that, obviously knowing that information, like I would totally like pay more attention to it. But I didn't notice anything. Like I said, I mean, listen, like Bo's. I've seen Bo from the start when he started. I think in like 2013 or 14. He's gotten a lot better. So whether you're able to pick up on it or not, I have to say, like, the past couple times I faced him was a hell of a lot more difficult than when I faced him from the beginning. So I didn't notice anything, but he played really, really well that day, and like, hats off to him. You know what I mean? I'm always a sucker for when people start out and they gradually get better. I mean, that's what we're all here for. So, congrats to him. And, Now, I didn't notice anything, but his tapping has gotten top tier, and it's crazy because him, Kevin, and Eric, they all tap the same. So you're not going to get away anymore with beating people by out tapping them, at least in Northeast tournaments. And you're going to have to face at least one or two of them, if not three of them. So it's very difficult.
Yeah, I would tell anybody who has not made it to one yet, because I'm going to go this year, at least to Connecticut and New York, I think, right? Those are the two I'm going to. Yeah, Connecticut and New York. That if you haven't gone to Northeast tournament, you should, because obviously, they do it a little bit differently than the Midwest, and just seems to be a different atmosphere. But something else you said that stuck out to me was Tecmo Rust. Now, we've probably had, granted, it's not the longest, probably not the longest HSTL break we've ever had, just because we had some problems probably a couple of years ago. But this is definitely the longest break we've had since we started turning a season every 2 months, where we basically finish a regular season in about a month and a week, and then in the next 2 or 3 weeks do playoffs and draft and get the whole next season rolling. So you mentioned Tecmo Rust. Is that a real thing?
Definitely, I believe so. Like I said, earlier, listen, Gats hands down is the best Tecmo player right now, right? He's logged over how many games, and the reason why he's doing so well is because he practices. He's practiced and put a lot of time into it. And that goes without saying. Anything you do, if you put time and effort into it, you're gonna get better. Now, if you, as I just said, opposite of that, if you take some time off and you don't play as much, or you don't play quality competition over that time frame, you're going to have some rust. Usually it's on the offensive side where you may miss your pass progressions or whatever, but obviously it happens on the defensive side too. But I believe it's a real thing. If you take off a long period of time, and you don't have the reps or the practices you do as you normally do before a tournament, it's definitely possible to be rusty. I kind of felt that, like I said, in New Jersey, I didn't play since December, other than against yourself and Barletti, just online, every now and then. But yeah, for sure, I definitely believe so. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I definitely tend to agree with you. When I was supposed to schedule this game versus Tecmo Bow, I was trying like hell to get in a practice game. I actually wanted to scrim with my HSTL team, but that didn't work out. So I played a couple of TTL games before I played him, and then when I played Diaz, I played a TTL game or two before I played him as well. And I just kind of feel like you just kind of need, it's just Tecmo can snowball so quickly that just a couple of bad decisions or a couple of rusty decisions or a couple whatever, it just doesn't play well. So I just feel like, have I played really well not playing in a couple of weeks? Absolutely. But do I feel more comfortable with what I'm doing when I've been playing? Sure. Now, conversely, when I was in Florida a couple months ago, I had to catch up on TTL and HSTL, and I played one night I played 8 straight hours of games. Now, by the end of that, I was going through the motions and wanted to shoot myself in the head. And I don't ever want to do that again. Granted, besides being in a tournament, which you're never playing 8 hours straight, I think playing too many games in a row without stopping gets grueling and tiresome as well, and it's just as bad as Tecmo Rust, because then you're kind of just going through the motions and still not engaged. So I think that's kind of what it is. I feel like you got to be the proper level of on point and engaged to play your best Tecmo, and if you're not doing that, or you're not at that right frame of mind, state of mind, or whatever, then it's not going to work. But I do think Tecmo Rust exists, and I think that War Machine probably said it best in the chat, that it's just, maybe if nothing else, it's a timing thing, and just knowing when you want to hit buttons and all that stuff. So, and also for people who are doing these new tapping methods that take a lot of effort, maybe the rust affects them there too, where they're not, instead of hitting a 17, they're hitting a 14, or if their arm is not as conditioned because they're not playing as much, maybe their sliding arm finger thing gets tired, or whatever they do. So I I would say anyone who is not scrimming like madmen, like Prime, War Machine, Gats, and whoever else was scrimming nonstop, you guys are going to be in for a long season compared to those guys because they're definitely on their game right now. So, okay, why don't we go ahead? What would you want to say?
No, I was just gonna say I agree with that, and like you said, there were also points, years and years and years ago, when I used to play a lot more, where if you play a lot of games, you kind of go in these slumps, like kind of like a baseball player, where literally you'll go 11-5, 12-4 in a league, and then you'll just hit these walls where you're losing like 5 games straight, and you're just like, man, like what the heck's going on? But like I said, it's about the reps. If you play somebody, 15 times, one of you guys are gonna figure out each other's tendencies, if not both, and that's where it comes into play. Kind of who has the advantage on who, of who's seeing what. You know what I mean? So, rust is definitely true, but also if you play a lot, you may get into a stage of just slumping. So those are two things that I've seen just in my time that I've been playing.
And I will mention too. You said playing someone a lot. I think that knowing someone else's tendencies is a smart man once told me is the key to playing good defense. Is kind of guessing what someone's going to do or where they're going to go before they do. So I think that that affects it as well. So if you keep playing the same people over and over again, make sure to be able to make adjustments on the fly or change your game against them so you can keep them guessing, because the second they're in tune with your moves and whatever you like to do, it doesn't go very well. Okay, when is the Philly tournament? I forgot about that.
June 23rd, Saturday, so 20 days away.
I would love to go to that, but I have a wedding that day. I think we already talked about that. I knew I couldn't go. I just forgot why. I have a wedding that day. I'm going to try to take home a bridesmaid, so that'll be fun. Okay, so
Hey, 2 for 2.
I know, right? All right, so let's get to these predictions. So, for those of you watching the stream, I have sorted the team page in order of division. They're not in any order in that division, just in order division. We're not going to sit here and kind of go through the weaknesses of each team and so on and so forth, because that's kind of already done with the draft review pod. We're more just going to kind of sit here and just look at what people have and who they are and where we think they're going to finish. In a sense of, I don't know, do you want to do records, Matt, or do you just want to kind of say, here are our playoff teams and here's the basement team, or do you actually want to try to do records on this?
No, I would say let's just, pick who we think will be in the playoffs like last year. I mean,
Yeah.
records are so, they're so hard to predict because you never know. Like, I mean, for example, with Kevin last year, Johnny Bailey goes down. Those are losses that you can't even account for. So,
Sure.
just predictions. That's cool with me.
Okay. So then we'll start with the AFC, or I'm sorry, the NFC East, as those are the first 5 teams listed. And so we have, the Mac, Jesus, also known as Jesus Loves Me, Barletti, who has moved to the AFC East, and then long-standing guys, Dolo and Turbo. So looking at this division, it's clear to me, and maybe it's not, and I don't, you can correct me, you can dissent from my opinion. The Mac his team is the worst team in this division, in my opinion. I kind of said it the other night on my preview or my draft review pod. So I think his team is the worst team. I don't know. I just don't think, even with Bo Jackson, that Barletti is going to get in the playoffs. I just don't see it there. I think that the division winning, I'm going to tell you, I think this division is Jesus's to lose. His firepower with QB Bills to Sterling Sharp, he's got the strong offensive line, and he's got 2 guys to man in the secondary, and with his tapping ability, I tend to think this is his division to lose. I think he's going to get, CCs galore. I would say that, Dolo is always a threat, and he's got Fulcher. So, but I mean, I think it's it's probably going to be a dogfight between Dolo, Turbo, and Jesus, like usual.
Hmm.
And but I kind of like Jesus here. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, my whole thing. See, the whole Dolo is in my opinion, as far as the skill, the most skilled player in the division. However, Turbo, like I said, he's kind of the up and up, like jumpstart team. This division's really hard to pick for me, but I'm gonna say it's actually Dolo or Turbo's to lose because, like I said, I mean Turbo has a tapping now too to kind of offset Jesus tapping, and I just like Turbo's team. I just feel like it's a really well drafted team. He has 50 max speed running back, 44 quarterback, some good receivers, and an elite defensive back, and as a solid linebacker to use. So I'm gonna say it's gonna either be Dolo or Turbo. But you might see Jesus kind of sneak in there. Like I said, it really depends on how it all plays out. But the NFC East, I mean, it's always a dogfight. Even last season, what 0-0 kind of ran away with it a little bit, but Dolo, he can rattle off 6 wins in a row. You know what I mean? So, and then Turbo, didn't Turbo kind of sneak in there last year or something like that?
Yeah,
He
Turbo.
kind of stuck.
Yeah, Turbo got the one of the last playoff spots. He basically had a winner go home game against Dolo and won
Hmm.
in one of the
Yeah.
final games. Actually, the final game that was played for the season. I would say, I agree. I think Turbo's team is really well balanced. I mean, his team checks all the boxes of stuff you want. A 50 MS running back. He's got more than one good receiver, but that's fine. He's got his one good linebacker, and he's got his elite defensive back. And, if you don't get one of the good QBs, he's got a 44 QB, and he's got another QB he can play conditions with. So I don't see. I mean, if I had to pick between Dolo versus Turbo, if you want to pick between which one is going to win the division, I mean, Turbo's team is better, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But Dolo's team suits him, so it's kind of like one of those things. So I don't really know. I mean, that's a typical Dolo team right there. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna stick out on my limb and say that I really like Jesus this season. I just got a feeling. So, I think that he can abuse Dolo's secondary aside from Fulcher. I think abusing Turbo's secondary is gonna be a lot harder because Houston has good drones, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So, you're picking, if you're going to pick one to win well, we can do division winners and playoff teams and all that stuff after we kind of go through the conference. So, going to the Central, I mean, it's clear
Yeah.
Rico's team is the best team on the ROM. I don't care what anyone else
Hmm.
says. He's got the best QB. He's got a 50 MS running back with two guys he can play conditions with, plus his jumbo, high reception tight end. Who cares that he doesn't have? Who cares that he has the Cincinnati wide receivers because he can kind of mix and match and stuff and just throw to the open guy, which is what Rico does anyway. He rarely throws into coverage, and then obviously he's got his two DBs he can man, and Eric Allen and Ben Smith. And then he's got, Kevin Green. So I think Rico, I'll tell you right now, Rico, in my opinion, is representing the Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl, the NFC and the Super Bowl. But aside from him, I like War Machine's team. I think that it suits him. I think it's going to help having Vinny. I think War's going to do a lot of smart scrambling. I don't remember ever seeing War with a 63 MS running back, so that's going to be interesting to watch. You kind of it's just going to be interesting to watch. Also, with the Seattle DBs, he doesn't necessarily have a man guy. I mean, he can man Harper and good, but other than that, it's basically the Kofor show. He's going to
Hmm.
have with maybe a little bit of Spielman to stop the run on the other end. But it's definitely going to be the Kofor show. But I wonder how, I forgot to ask him how he was doing in scrims, because I know he's scrimmed a lot, so it's going to be interesting. I like Vinny, but that 31 passing speed, man, and I'm going to go through it too, it just scares me, because I just feel like I just feel like the ball gets thrown away a lot. But the last thing I'll say about the Central is that Zur, who had a very good season last season, habitually is in the the 9-7, 10-6, 11-5 range. I just I don't see how he's going to make, aside from burn routes, the Boomer Esiason and the Andre Rison thing work. And his defense, is significantly lacking. It's going to be the Charles Haley show, and Charles Haley isn't a good nickelback. So if Zur thinks he's just going to chuck it, I just don't see how it's going to work with Boomer. I think it's going to be savage. I think Zur is finally going to have a pretty bad season, to be honest. I think that it's going to. I think Rico is going to win the division handily because of his team and his ability, and then I think Zur. I think War Machine will probably, be second. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
Yeah, completely agree with you. And like I picked Sir to win the NFC East last season. He pretty much did. And another thing isn't War Machine like his kryptonite? Didn't he sweep him last year 3 times?
Yeah, it was the weird scheduling anomaly of camp schedule, which I'll probably announce at the end of the pod, and then I'll put something up about the schedule. But with War Machine's guidance, I have officially created something that uses the NFL schedule from the 80s, where there was no buys, and so we're no longer going off of something that was written by camp, or whoever camp took it from, whatever, and we're actually using a true NFL schedule except with proper seating because of the teams. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's good, but I'm in full agreement. I don't think anybody's gonna stop Rico on offense unless QB Eagles gets hurt. And War Machine's gonna be second in the division. I think Zer's gonna have his worst season that he's probably ever had. I'd be impressed if he was able to make the playoffs for sure, but I just don't see it. And then the other guys, Casualty, he's always struggling. Big Red's interesting. Hold on a second. Let me just take a look at his team.
Yeah, his team is interesting. I don't like Rippin. I don't like the 6MS. He's got a good running game. His wide receivers are, good reception but slow. He's got the Indy wide receivers, but he's got the Giants linebackers. But it's like the embarrassment of riches. Like, I don't understand. I think I said it with Viking Mo the other night. I don't understand. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's got the KC linebackers. I don't understand. Like, it's still an embarrassment of riches. Like, you've got the KC linebackers and you've got the Minnesota DBs. You literally have 4 people you can man. I just think it might be a little bit of overkill. Not that you ever really man Carl Lee instead of Browner, but it's going to be interesting. Even with whatever he has on defense, I don't see him overtaking War Machine or Rico. So, I mean, maybe he might be able to sneak in, depending on the rest of our conference review, as a wild card. I just don't know. But so. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add about the Central?
Yeah, nah. I think we're pretty much in agreement with Rico and War Machine on that.
Okay. So then going on to the NFC West, we get the normal dogfight between Prime and Nas, and then we've got Drake going back out there where he had a very, very good showing, and I think he lost a win and get in game at the end of the season out there, where the whole division finished above 500, and then we added a player who replaced Tooley at the very end of the last 2 games of the season. We put a player out there as well. So just kind of going down the line here. It's going to definitely be the Joe Montana to Andre Reed show. Maybe you'll throw a tiny bit of John L. Williams in there with some slow balance, whatever. But I mean, I don't know he's not going to stop anybody on defense. I mean, literally.
Nope.
I mean, the Buffalo secondary is terrible. Odoms might be fast, but for the most part, they're like, eh. They're definitely below average in my opinion, and so I just definitely think he's going to have to win in shootouts. Luckily, if Joe gets hurt, he can still kind of run around with Steve a little bit, maybe keep people honest with his 38 MS running back and Chris Warren, and I think he's got another one too. Is it Jones? James Jones, I think. But I just think that it's going to be he's going to go how Joe goes. So, I mean, to give perspective, I blew a season with Joe and only went 8-8. So, I mean, it's possible to suck with Joe. What do you think about his team?
No, I mean it's pretty much relying on CCs like you said, Montana to read, and I mean not going to stop anybody, but yeah, I mean you always have to have at least somebody on defense because it just gets hard, especially when you isolate people. Having drones to kind of help you out if you're not a lead tapper, so it's pretty much if he's able to get like a turnover or two and get stops that way, he'll probably pull out some wins, but sort of stopping people on defense, I'm just not seeing it.
It's funny, if you look at San Francisco and New Orleans, their offenses are built exactly the same way. High PS QB, 63 MS running back. I do like the Pittsburgh wide receivers better than the Chicago ones. And then, whatever with your offensive line tight ends. But then when you get to defense, Nas's defense, man, I mean, he's going to have literally, I think, he's going to have three high HB guys from the Raiders defensive line and by Singletary in the line. I mean, plus he's got Everson Walls in the secondary. I mean, if Nas can figure out the high PS thing, plus he's still got Burline to chuck it if he really wants to, although he really has nobody to throw to. I mean, unless he puts... The thing with Nas is that I don't like about his offense is that he really has no one fast to throw to except for Thomas. So if he puts Thomas, at wide receiver, that's one thing, but then it takes away the whole point of it. So I just worry about Nas's passing game. Like if he gets behind, what's he going to do? Maybe he won't get behind often because of how strong his defense is. But with Player, I just haven't seen enough of him to see what he can do, to be honest. I mean, he's got all the pieces on defense. If he can work the high PS offense, much like Nas, more power to him. He does have the benefit of Steve Jordan in there, besides the pit wide receivers. But I don't know what's going to happen. So and then with Prime, I said the other night, his team is very well balanced, in my opinion. And so I'm actually going to probably pick Prime to win this division. I think it's his time. I like his team. I think it's very well balanced. It's got enough good but not great players to do some work. It's going to be the Jarvis Williams and Louis Oliver show with a little bit of Ken Harvey sprinkled in. I am worried about Prime's offensive line, but getting Keith Jackson was kind of a, I don't know if it was good because it gives him a 50 MS receiver, but I'm concerned just because that offensive line, man, we'll see. Well, we're going to see. But, I mean, I actually called out what his alignment would be on the draft review pod, and he actually messaged me and said I was spot on, so I don't need to do that again. But I think it's Prime's division to win. I think it's going to be Prime's division with Nas maybe one game behind him. What do you think?
I mean, you want to know what the difference is going to be in the division. If the Raiders' defensive line is able to crash through Prime's offensive line, it's going to be a game changer because I'm seeing Prime's offensive line, it's like 38 hit power, 50 hit power. So if Nas is able to have the Raiders' D-line crash through and take away Prime's running game somehow, I think Nas will win the division. But if Prime's able to have them hold up and have a running game, it's definitely Prime's division to lose. But that kind of remains to be seen, unless they practice scrimmed or somebody practice scrim just to see how it goes. But I think that's what it is, because if you have two of those defensive linemen crashing in, all Nas has to do is just kind of hold somebody until somebody else gets there. You know what I mean? And then after that, it's pretty much just like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about him running the ball, so I'll just sit on pass plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what it's gonna be. I really don't know because I haven't taken a look at the ROM yet, but I think that's pretty much what it's gonna be. Right now, I would pick Prime, but if the Raiders defensive line kind of crashes in, I'd probably pick Nas.
Well, I mean, the Raiders' defensive line and Mike Singletary can absolutely crash in, and it's probably going to happen. But even if Nas beats Prime twice, I can see Nas, maybe having trouble offensively if he gets his run bottled up, where he might lose enough elsewhere to still not win the division. Like, yeah, I agree. Maybe Nas's defense lines up really well with Prime's offense in stopping him, but I'm not convinced that it's that Nas maybe lines up very well to like beat everybody else. That's all I'm saying. So I think my predictions for the NFC, I'm gonna say, oh, it's tough. So I'm gonna say Prime winning the West, Nas getting in as a wild card. I'm going to say Rico winning the Central, War Machine getting in as a wild card. And I'm going to say Jesus winning the East. And I'm going to say Turbo getting as a wild card again. And I've got Dolo missing the playoffs for the second straight season. What do you think?
I think Prime gets in as the West winner, Nas in as a wild card. I mean, the Central, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Rico will probably be the 1 seed in the whole conference, but Rico as the winner in the Central, War Machine as the wild card. I'm gonna go with Bo to win the East and Dolo to get in as a wild card.
So we finally disagree on one little thing. I'm taking a flyer out on Jesus. I think, don't let me down, buddy. I will say I think Rico is going to go like 14-2. I bet you maybe Eagles has a bad game, gets hurt or something, and maybe he has Tecmo luck and loses a couple of games. But I see Rico going. If he doesn't go 14-2, it's a travesty. All right, let's move on to the AFC East. And basically looking at the Jets, it's the Warren Moon show. Although, much like happened with when Odell had Moon, I know it was probably a product of the draft itself, but it's just crazy to have Warren Moon and not have any high reception guys to throw to. I mean, I think Marv Cook is 44-63, so his highest reception guy is, 63. I know he's got Baker at 56 for speed, but it's just, and he's got Eric Metcalf at 56 receptions. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Plus, Metcalf has to be the running back or else he has no running game. So, I mean, Metcalf can't go anywhere else. So, it's probably going to be true positions unless he moves Cook somewhere and puts a wide receiver at running back, moves Cook into one of the wide receiver slots. It's going to kind of be, Metcalf at running back and what have you. On defense, though, you don't really have anyone you can man in the KC secondary. So, you kind of can, I guess, but it's not great. I think Albert Lewis is the best, I want to say. So, it's basically the Vaughn Johnson and Pat Swilling show. LB1, LB4, and just kind of go from there and guess on running plays. But it's definitely it's not gonna be a CC heaven. It could be and honestly, Moon isn't great at JJ's either. So it's gonna be really interesting to see this team dynamic and see what Hawk does with this. And then going down the line to Rockman, he can kind of scramble around with Magic Man. He can keep people honest with Walker. He's probably going to have to put Fenny at tight end because he has no tight ends for having the Detroit offensive line. He can chuck the ball to Tune. like the San Francisco secondary. He's got the linebackers. He's got Cornelius Bennett, Taylor as a nickel if he really wants. But I mean, he's got Lott already, and Waymer. He's got a pretty well balanced team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miami, it's going to basically be the Craig Page show. He's got the 30
Who
MS.
is the owner of Miami?
Pardon me?
Who's the in Miami over? Because I'm on the website and it says that Big Red's the owner for Tampa
Yeah,
Bay Miami.
it's not. It's Humiliation, who is new this
Okay.
season. He used to be known as Elijah Peters. I don't know how good he is or what he's capable of, so it's going to be interesting to see. But good luck with Dave Craig because his lollipop, each balls are, a pain in the ass. But I mean, if he can get Craig down with the whole Craig the Page thing, and maybe Byers as his slower guy, and we kind of talked about this the other night. His defense is kind of sneaky good. He's got the linebacker in Francis, and he's got the probably underrated Pitt secondary. So Humiliation could make some noise if he figures out the Dave Craig passing game. If he can't figure that out, he's doomed. And then
Mm-hmm.
we'll skip down to Old Dirty and do me last. It's kind of interesting with Timmy Rosenbach. He's got the 19 MS, but the 31 passing speed. But he's got Jerry Rice. So it's just a shame that I get why he was picking what he was picking when I looked at his draft, but to not be able to pair at least a 44-44 guy with Jerry Rice just seems like a travesty. But that's going to be That's going to be interesting. But he's got Rozier to keep everyone honest. The running game. I did notice last season that Old Dirty or Diaz, whatever you want to call him, ran a lot more than you would think when he's got an elite receiver. When I think he had Risen last season, he definitely in one game against me he chucked nonstop to him because he just all that was because I was stopping everything else. But in other games he didn't. But I mean, it's the Dion show and the Bob Nelson show on defense, and that's pretty much all he's got. The rest of the guys there are scrubs, besides the fact that the Atlanta DBs have decent interceptions. So, and then with my team, it's going to be interesting. I assume your vision is the Jack Trudeau show over Jeff George because of the what is he 31-38.
Yeah.
And then obviously Mega at wide receiver 1, Otis Anderson at running back. Could throw Fryer at wide receiver 2, Holahan, whatever his name is, Holan at tight end. And then defense, obviously, it could be crashing some lines. I know I play. The schedule was actually really weird when I was making it, and so the slot I'm in from where I finished last season, my first 3 weeks of games, weeks 1, 2, and 3, are all against the NFC West. So I actually play my first 3 weeks. I don't know the order is the Saints, the Falcons, and the 49ers. And so we're going to see what happens with Prime and his offensive line against the second best defensive line in the game with the Bears, because maybe they'll come crashing through and what have you. Plus, I think Lloyd at 63 hitting power could actually crash through on a 38 guy as well. So anyway, going down the line. So I mean, the defense is strong on my team, but it's just going to be, can I move the ball offensively or not? So just so everyone knows, I'm going to get a private lesson from Matt on how to use Jack Trudeau. I'm excited about it. I don't know if I wasn't supposed to say it out loud, but I'm sure you could probably charge Tecmo guys a lot of money just to show them how to beat good teams with the Colts. But I don't want to give away your secrets. But I'm gonna get the Jack Trudeau lesson, so it's gonna be interesting. So when I make the playoffs, if I make the playoffs with this team, everyone can suck it. But I will say though, if I don't make the playoffs or I crash and burn, so I can't figure out Jack Trudeau or what have you. Maybe I can just gun for QB Eagles and just be one of those guys, one of those jerks. But so with the AFC East, I see. Well, before I say what I see, what do you like? I just kind of went through every team without stopping because I'm an idiot. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think Diaz is going to win the East again. You know, he has Jerry Rice in the running game. He's a good player. So I just think I foresee him winning it. Really, it's gonna, in my opinion, it's gonna be between you and Rockman, um, to potentially get a wild card, and that just depends, honestly, how many JJs you can get to follow Trudeau and Meggett. Um, but like I said, as far as, I mean, listen, you have the 50 max speed running back. Meggett has the speed. Trudeau can throw the lollipops, but your defense is solid. You know what I mean? So your defense and the drones, the Steelers linebackers are going to swarm. So, um, obviously I'm going to pick Diaz. And I'll say it's a toss up right now between you and Rockman. So like if you came out right like 2-1 after your first 3 games, I think you're going to feel pretty damn good. Um, if you came out like 1-2 or 0-3. I think you're gonna just be like, all right, F it. But that's what I'm foreseeing right now. So Diaz, and then one of you guys, I would imagine, would probably grab, close to a wild card.
Well, yeah, I definitely have Diaz winning the division. I'm going to hold off on wild card talk until we go through the rest of the conference, just because I think that I need to kind of see what goes on with the rest of the conference before we do that. So going on to the Central, Eifer Sucked, I think that's how you pronounce his name, has moved from the NFC Central to the AFC Central. And obviously Rockman, who was in the AFC Central, has moved to New England. But anyway, so Eifer Sucked, he's got, I mean, I don't know about this. He's basically playing with, the OG Detroit Lions, except he's got Buzzy O'Neal instead of Kofor, and then he doesn't have Jerry Ball. The Pitt-O-Well's a little bit better, and his wide receivers are a little bit worse. So it's kind of interesting to see his team. I don't know what Eifer can do, but I will say that he can make people pay for calling run, because he's got a lot of speed behind at QB where he can scramble a lot. So he can make you pay for calling run, where he can scramble if I'm the open guy. Tundrietti has the high PS, high MS running back show, except I think, didn't Kevin tell us last draft, with our last draft review that we did last season, that 56 is not fast enough, and if it's not 63, it's not going to work? Didn't he say something like that?
I'll be honest, I don't remember, but he might have.
Well,
Obviously,
what do you think about that? I mean, is a 56 MS running back enough to make the high PS passing game work?
definitely. I mean, I think that if you had a 50 max speed running back, you'd be able to do it too. It really depends on the skill of the player, to be honest with you. I mean, if you have, 63 is, you could tell it's a little bit faster than 56. But like the classic example, like Du Bois, he was notorious for drafting. I mean, he had guys that he was able to scramble with at quarterback, so it was a little different. But I mean, he would always draft 56 max speed running backs, and he would kill people. You know what I mean? He would win divisions every year because he had that. And like you said, he had a scrambling quarterback. But I think if you have a good skill level, you could totally win with a 56 max speed running back.
Well, I'm not saying. Well, I'm saying specifically with a high PS QB. I'm not saying you can't win with a 56 MS running back. I mean, I think you can win with a 44 MS running back. I mean, look what Gats just did to Diaz in the AFC Championship game by putting Neil Anderson at wide receiver and running with Fennerty. I think I was just more talking about the high PS quarterback play. But anyway, moving on to the rest of it, I mean, Tundrietti's defense is, it's basically the Wayne Haddock show. There's really nothing else to note there. And so it's going to be granted you had the good TV drones. It's going to be, can he make defensive stops with Haddocks, and then what can he do to make people pay for stacking run? Now, going down to Tecmo Bowl and Stall Talk, I really think this is going to be a dogfight for the division. I think that, Viking Mo loves Tecmo Bow's team. I like Tecmo Bow's team too. I love his offense. I think that he is going to do some dirty, dirty work and dirty, dirty things with Marino and the speed of the Raiders wide receivers. I'm concerned though that he's not going to be able to make any stops on defense because he's not scared of having poor poor DBs because he proved that a couple of seasons ago when he had the Colts DBs and he basically his whole defense was Kyle Clifton. Like literally, that was the only good guy he had, manable guy he had. He can kind of use Millard and Merriweather, but I think that compared to Stahl's team, who has all the defense he needs with the Phoenix secondary and Houston, and then obviously he's got Phil Simms, but he's only got Eric Martin. He doesn't have a lot of speed at the wide receiver slot. I just think that I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Tecmo Bowl is going to win this division. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be Tecmo Bowl, or do you think it's going to be Sean?
I'll be honest with you. I looking at people's teams and just going over everything. I actually think that I actually might pick Eifer to win this division.
Really?
Yeah, because the whole thing is that the original Detroit Lions in the original ROM actually aren't a bad team at all. I mean, so if you have that type of team in this where everything's kind of dispersed out, I mean, especially with Barry Sanders and all that, if he's able to move the ball, and Eifer's like an old school player, and all those old school players, they like those scrambling quarterbacks, they'll nickel and dime you. So pair that up with the fast running back. I actually might pick him. I think that I honestly believe I think three people are going to come out of the division to make the playoffs in the Central. I think it's going to be Eifer, Sean, and Bo. So I don't know. Like I said, it's really the skill level. I think that Sean probably has the highest skill level in the division. I don't like. I just don't like Tecmo Bow's defense. That's the only thing. But Eifer with Barry Sanders, it's all for fun anyway. So I'm just gonna say I think Eifer's gonna win the division.
Yeah, I would tell you, if Tecmo Bowl had an elite DB or at least a manable DB, I would be all over his team to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and I still might be. That's actually who Viking Mo picked to come out of the AFC was Tecmo Bowl. I think that I am not as confident in Eifer's performance this season as you, simply probably because I don't know enough about his play aside like what I've seen in league, and I just think that this Stahl and Tecmo Bowl are the tired and true whatever, and I think both those teams can do work, so it's going to be interesting. But I mean, well, I'm gonna pick Tecmo Bowl to win this division, but we can talk wild cards still after we finish the West here. So now down to the AFC West. We've got basically it's a running back, except instead of Drake out there, it's got Rob, who infamously got drunk during the draft, was so pissed off at the format he quit, and then he immediately unquit by his next pick and said he was staying. So if you haven't read Tecmo Bow's AFC preview on the forum, go do it, and because it was funny to read. So anyway, looking at these teams, we talked at length about it the other night, but I'll say that I like Rob's team. I think he's got a lot of versatility, but it's just he just has overkill. I'm not going to say it, everything I said the other night, but the Houston wide receivers were just a curse in this draft because there's no way you can take advantage of them. There was no way picking them that high you could fully utilize them, and then to have the Rams' versatility of their running backs beside that, it's just what are you doing? And then now you're stuck with the Tampa Bay offensive line. You're basically throwing the 31 PS Chris Miller heaves to insert Houston wide receiver here, and that's your game plan. Offerdell is good with the linebackers, and Lippett is highly underrated in the defensive backfield, but I just don't know. I don't see this going well. With the Tampa Bay offensive line. Game high, he had a good season for him this past season. He was very competitive. He's another one doing the high PS game with Neil Anderson. I actually, looking at this team, I think I said the other night, I'll say it again, I feel like you should put Bailey at running back and Neil Anderson at wide receiver. Just because he uses speed, I think that'll be lethal, especially in burn routes. And the problem is that, granted, he doesn't have to worry about it much in his division, except against Tadeos and Gats. But the Raiders DBs, while they're fast, have stone hands. And then obviously the New England linebackers don't do much, so it's basically the Bruce Smith show on defense, and that's going to be probably going to be troubling for him. I don't know what kind of stops he's going to get, although at least his defensive backs will swarm to the ball. Tadeos, he is going to do serious things, I think. He's going to get a lot of shootouts, I think. He's really going to be heaving it to Anthony Carter. He can keep him honest with Bentley, plus, dump off to him or throw Bentley in a place where he can receive as well. And on defense, while he does have the Indy secondary where he can't stop much, it can be the Kyle Clifton nickel show, Reggie White nickel show, Dennis Byrd stuff. So I think Steos has enough to make it work. And then Randy Wags, Chicago QBs, man, it's tough. Mm-hmm. It's real tough. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then some people are going to stack up the line against James Brooks, and it's just like, what are you doing, I mean, he does have the Giants linebackers, but I'm not necessarily sure, if that's going to be enough, to do what he wants to do, because what are you going to do when everyone's calling run against you? And you've got Harbaugh or Tom Zach just throwing the ball 20 yards over someone's head. So he's going to have to really, I could see James Brooks only averaging like maybe 5 yards a carry, and he's just pounding the ball 25 times a game and just going like to true like NFL running stats with this. And then Gats, I'm telling you, man, this Gats team is probably going to be pretty lethal. He's got the QB he likes. I think he's had great seasons with the Berg before. He can keep people honest with the 30 MS running backs, and then throwing the flipper and Ellard. I mean, it's going to be lights out for him, honestly. And then on defense, he can make it work with Dennis Smith, and then obviously Joyner and Jerome Brown. So, I mean, in this division, it's definitely going to be between, in my opinion, Gats and Tadeos. I just don't see Rob making that team work. And then I don't see Randy making that team work either. And unfortunately, Game High just hasn't been in contention in a while. So if I had to pick, I'm gonna probably say, oh man, I gotta go with Gats. I mean, Gats is the best in the world right now. At least, he's winning tournaments left and right. I gotta go with Gats to win this division. I'll go with Tadeos as a wild card for sure. I just don't know how many stops Tadeos can get is my concern. I'm not concerned with him. And then if QB Browns goes down, he really has no way of winning. And so I hope he doesn't scramble too many times. But what do you think?
I mean, I'm picking Gats hands down. So there's no reason not to pick him at this point. You know what I mean? It's just that I mean, today's gonna get really frustrated. I mean, what Gats has, DeBerg to Ellard, right?
DeBerg to Ellard and DeBerg to Flipper. Like he's got DeBerg to either. So that means, keep in mind too, that does not limit his playbook at all, where he can literally run pretty much any passing playbook he wants and always have a guy to throw to at the top or bottom. It doesn't even matter.
Yep, exactly. And today it says the Colts secondary. You know what I mean? And say he uses Kyle Clifton, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So Gats is I think Gats is gonna win the division pretty handily.
Oh, you think so? You don't even think Tadeos is gonna be able to compete? You think Gats is gonna win it handily? You think this is like a 14-2 Gats season then, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be up there. I think it's gonna be like 12-4.
Interesting. So I'm going to say, so now for playoff picks, so I'm going to go with Old Dirty winning. I'm going to go with Tecmo Bowl winning. And I'm going to go with Gats winning.
Hmm.
I'm going to go with wild cards. I don't think a wild card is going to come out of the AFC East. So I'm going to say Stall is definitely a wild card. Yeah, I'm going to go with what you said. I'm going to go Stall as a wild card. I'm going to give you the benefit on Eifer. You know, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm lying. I'm going to pick Rockman as a wild card, Stall as a wild card, and Tadeusz as a wild card, and those are my picks. What do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, listen. I'm just gonna go based on skill and who's won. I'm gonna go in the East. I'm gonna go Matt Diaz. In the Central, I'm gonna pick Sean, and in the West, I'm gonna pick Yats, because it seems like all those people have had locks on their divisions, at least the past 2 seasons. After that, oof. After that, you know what? Ooh, I'm gonna pick Eifer just because I already picked him before. You know what I mean? I mean, it, it's very standard. And his defense isn't bad, so I feel like he's gonna be able to do okay with it. And then it's really between Tecmo Bowl and Tadeos, and in my opinion, their teams are very similar because they have good offenses but not very good defenses. Um, I mean, I love Kevin. He's my boy, but I'm gonna have to pick Tecmo Bowl. You know what I mean? I'm still gonna go with the three from the Central. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, I can pick another one, can I?
No, you get
One, two,
you
three,
get
four,
six.
five.
You get six total playoff teams.
Exactly. So Diaz, three from um the Central, and then Gats and Tadeos. So that's six.
All right, and I got I think I definitely have. I've got. I'm gonna go with Gats winning. I mean, I'm not gonna pick against Gats anymore, so I'm gonna go with Gats representing the AFC, and I'm gonna go with um, Rico representing the NFC. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if Rico does not win this Super Bowl with the team that he has, I'm going to go on record and say this with how good of a player he is. If he can't win the Super Bowl with this team, I don't know when he's going to win the Super Bowl, because literally this team is lights out, and there's no reason why Rico should not be able to win the Super Bowl with this team. Do you disagree with that?
Oh no, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, for as good as a player he is, with having QB Eagles, he should definitely win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean his only problem is wide receivers. He doesn't necessarily. I mean, I'd actually almost consider, if it's me, I would put Roger Craig at wide receiver to have a
Hmm.
50 MS wide receiver for Eagles and just use his plethora of 44 MS guys in the backfield. So basically, throw Roger Craig wide receiver one, run with Sidney or Carter, whichever one you want, or both. Maybe do the two running back offense, and then McGee or Brown play conditions. I think Brown's a little faster, and then
Hmm.
and that's it. With the other wide receiver, and just be done with it. That's what I would do. I don't think you. And obviously Rathman at tight end. I just don't think you keep Craig in the backfield, because with QB Eagles you do not need a 50 MS running back. You just don't. So
Yeah.
interesting though. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Rico to win the Super Bowl. I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say even if he doesn't, he should, and
Hmm.
that's kind of how I feel about that. So, but anyway, um,
Yeah.
but
The only I have to say this though, like the only threats I could see for Rico is like a Prime Anas or Dolo, because those are all guys who are kind of experienced, and like the whole thing is the one threat I think for Rico if he meets him in the playoffs is Dolo, because Dolo is a grinder, and he'll be able to kind of limit the reps on offense that QB Eagles has. And I could totally see that happening. But other than that, I think it's his confidence to win.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, that's all I had for tonight, man. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Nah, man, I am. I know we're both exhausted. It's been a while, but it was good to finally hear your lovely voice again, and hopefully we'll do it again soon. But yeah, I mean, I think the rundown's pretty legit. And soon, this season's gonna be interesting because the draft format was pretty cool. So hats off to Tecmo Bill for suggesting it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put up this draft format as part of the draft format vote that I need to put up in the next week. But I hope it doesn't win again because I don't want to. I don't want it. I definitely don't want it. But in any event, though, yeah. Thanks for coming back, man. I know we haven't been on together in about a month and a half, but it's been real, and we'll do another one of these soon. And no feature game this season just because I couldn't get it together. But what are you gonna do? But if anybody does have any great games that they record and want commentated or what have you, like a game of the week sort of thing, obviously let me know. And as always, I think we just found out too that Tadeos has gotten his streaming figured out, so now his games will be streamed and commentated live as well. So,
Cool.
Matt, thanks for coming on, buddy. I'm looking forward to my Trudeau lesson, and basically that's it. So good luck everybody in this season, and until next time. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, thanks, man.